What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, we gotta say a farewell, maybe, to Friday the 13th, the game. This is a very special one, and I have a lot to say. We gotta talk a little bit about the history of this game, and I also kind of have to explain, what we're doing necessarily in this video. So let's start there. What's going on? Well, this has been a game that's been around since 2017, right? We'll go over the history in a second, but they did a statement a little while ago. Actually, depending on the time you're watching this, quite a while ago. The game's been delisted, and it's been delisted, I believe, since the end of 2023. Well, at the time I'm recording this, and I'll try to make the title match and make sure, I'm doing all my journalistic integrity kind of stuff. At the time I'm recording this, we don't actually know, and it could be the same thing by the time you guys see this video. When they talked about the delisting, and they talked about basically sunsetting this game, right? One of the things they talked about was that the game would remain playable until the final day of this year, of 2024, right? December 31st. And they say at least December 31st, 2024. So it's possible this game has another 6 months. It's possible this game has another year. It's possible they do some kind of clever work, or maybe fans take it into their own, hands to do something with and can keep the game alive even longer, right? But the game is on the way out, and it's been on the way out. I would say it's been on the way out even before they did the statement, but definitely when they announced, okay, you can't buy the thing anymore, right? You can still buy it physically. Actually, this game does come out physically, but you can't do it digitally. If you own it, you're good there. And again, it's only playable until God knows when, but maybe the final day of this year, okay? So, in a way, this is one of those farewell videos. I've done it for the Battlefields of the world when we lose those multiplayers. And here's the thing, for Friday the 13th, is there offline content? There sure is. It's not all that amazing. I think it was a product of the time. I actually kind of respect it more and more as time goes on. Obviously, the meat and potatoes of this thing is the base game. Like I said earlier, it really is a special game. This is a game that, even from my own experience, Podcast Now, this actually kind of blew up for me. I was covering it, I was doing the previews and leading into it, and then game comes out, and some of my biggest videos, even still to this day, are guides, and I still stand by those guides. The quality doesn't look as good as it used to, but I think I was actually quite good at those games, and those videos really blew up. I think that helped me either get to 1,000 subscribers or maybe get to 1,500, 2,000. It was a special time, and I put so much time into Friday the 13th. I played this game. I actually, on my PlayStation, it tells me I think I put in 83 hours. Now, I played a little bit as time went on. I honestly could tell you 70 to 75 of those hours I played in the first 2 months. When that game came out late May of 2017, for all of June and a lot of July, maybe it was really just mostly, June, I played the holy blank out of this. I really played this game quite a bit, and I think I got legendary status. I got extremely good, and it's kind of elements I want to talk about in this video. This is a game that I think is a product of the time, but I'll tell you this, because I replayed it a little bit, to say goodbye to it. Number one, I'm no longer, a god at this game. I'm very, very bad. It's got a finicky nature to it. It's very, when you're playing as Jason in particular, especially when you do your shifting and, you're going really fast, right, invisible, you can't, it's hard to pivot. It's very difficult. It was a lot easier when I was in the mode of playing it, but I think this game is actually still extremely good. I remember I had tough love for this game because I started just adoring it. I thought this was one of the best games ever created. I had an absolute blast, and a couple of things sank this game, in my opinion. The bugs, which the game still has. I mean, again, product of its time, and I look back kind of fondly on it. But when you're cycling through the characters, they look atrocious to start because they're not loaded in. I actually did a whole part to that. I think I have the footage to show you guys. I'm just scrolling through every character, and they come out as they come out like Assassin's Creed looking, Unity. They just look so bad, and they kind of get the rest of their facial features in. But there was in-game stuff too, in terms of bugs, glitches, crashes, kind of just issues with people quitting and stuff, finding matches. I think to Predator Hunting Grounds is some of the worst experiences I've had with just sitting there for 7, 8, 9 minutes the first couple days to get into matches for some reason. Friday the 13th was very much the same way. In that way, there were things like that, but honestly, I think, a well-known fact with this game is, of course, the legal stuff with Jason and just Friday the 13th in general that sunk this game, right? Because I think the game has that loop, and we're going to talk about that loop as this video goes. The game has it, and it's a blast, and it's also a blast. Even playing, I think, with complete strangers, you can just have so much fun with this game. But it's got that Dead by Daylight. I think this game and Dead by Daylight are kind of kings of that repetitive gameplay structure, but the difference is Dead by Daylight is able to live on, whereas Friday the 13th, it limited itself to the one franchise, which is fine. I mean, a lot of games have done it since. It was kind of the pioneer of doing it, right? Friday the 13th showed it worked. The game freaking blew up. I remember watching Let's Players on YouTube, and a lot of some of the bigger ones that reached 1 million plus subscribers, I remember watching them when they were playing Friday the 13th. It was cool to see, that journey. But, you have that just a one franchise, and then when you do something like that, okay, well, the only thing you can really do is really lean into it. So skins, maps, different like version. Well, I guess that would also be skins, right? Like skins of Jason. Now the problem is they could do almost none of that, right? There's a couple different. There's like maybe 9-10 versions of Jason. There's a couple maps, but like the space station one that they had teased that they were doing that with Jason X, right? Like that never ended up happening, and just any further plan to do anything special and because like Friday the 13th is a massive franchise. It spans decades. It's got so many different looks, whether it's the environment or Jason himself, right? You could do so much with that, and they wanted to is the thing. It's not like they just chose actively to ignore it, right? They were legally not allowed to, and that really, in my opinion, because this was a game much like I look at this game like Fall Guys or even like Among Us differently, right? But the fact of it blew up. This game freaking blew up right before, like late May is when it came out, but I think it had like an early access right before it. That thing freaking soared, and you had people uploading, just them playing it, right? 30-minute videos that were getting like 6, 7, 800,000 views. It was like the talk of the freaking town, and the game blew up. It did so well for a couple months. This game sold like millions of units, right? And then just after a couple months, I would say like it got cut in half, then it got cut in half, then it got cut in half, and any hope. And I remember I made videos. I was raging, because it's like the game I think is so much fun, but at the time there were so many bugs and glitches that just could really hurt the gameplay experience that they just, whatever reason, it took too long or they just refused to fix. And then on top of that, you had the legal stuff where they couldn't promise you anything, and just like nothing eventually, at the end of the day, nothing really came to that game. So that's why I look at it kind of as a product of the time. But I do want to talk about just the gameplay loop in general. Like, why is this game good? Okay, like what makes it kind of just the special 2017 game, and why is it sad that we're like losing it eventually at some point, right? Well, it is the gameplay loop, because this game, again, this game and Dead by Daylight, I think it does it so well of you can have such a blast as either of them. So like, my memories playing as like the counselors, right? The fact that you can actually take Jason out, but it is actually quite tactical. With having Tommy, the jacket, I don't think you needed the axe, but you needed like a like a blunt weapon and stuff like it. You had to knock his mask off. You had to stun him at the right moment, like that. Whenever you could pull off a Jason kill, especially early on, I remember that also being something that was just like unbelievable when you would see videos of people killing Jason, and it's like, oh my god, you can do that, and you'd have that structure and kind of the chaotic like nature of it, because it is simple. The game's simple, right? So you spawn in as a counselor and you just you just look around, right? Because you can get the map, you can get the radio, you can get your pocket knives, which you'll need if he picks you up, which is also kind of strategic in that way. You got the flare guns, you got the firecrackers, so you're going around, you're getting your own stuff, you're trying to be strategic in that way. Actually, even before you do that, you're picking your character, which will have different traits of like staying calm and that composure kind of thing. The game has evolved a bit where it's like, I remember early on, like hiding was a legit thing you did, and there are ways even now of like legitimately hiding from Jason, but I think as the game moved further along and people just got better, like the amount of deking you can do, right, and like just running around in circles and kind of like getting that loop, which Dead by Daylight does as well, right, getting into that path where it's just you got to be very, very good as the killer, otherwise that survivor is just gonna lap you over and over. That's really where it's become. but, you know, the traits are still very important for you have the stamina, you got the health, all that jazz, right? So you have to do that before you get in. You go in, you kind of find the stuff for yourself. You don't have the map, at least to go into it, unless I think you have the perk to do it, is one of them. And then you find your ways to escape, right? Whether it's calling the police, whether it's taking him out, whether it's taking the boat, whether it's taking the car. And, you know, each match, the thing that always makes these games special, right? What makes Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th special? They're simple. It's this loop that's over and over again. There's things that you kind of do every time, but there's always one or two things that happen slightly differently, right? The player error, the fact that things kind of move around a little bit, right? The fact that, well, maybe somebody backstabs you and takes the car, and it's like, okay, well, now I don't have the freaking car to escape out of. Now I got to find another way. You know, every match has something a little bit different. You're facing a different Jason. The Jasons have traits too, right? But also just the people are going to play them differently. Maybe, you know, like I always would go hit the electricity boxes, right? So you can kind of eliminate the cop stuff. And then I would also trap the cars. And then I would kind of keep an eye on the boat and stuff. And it's like, okay, you kind of have your bases covered. Then you start hunting, right? But it's like, well, each Jason is a little bit different. Some of them don't do that, you know, in the same way. At least back then. I'm talking about strategies that worked 7.5 years ago that I think was received quite well when I made those videos, but I don't know if they work anymore. I'll tell you, like I said, playing it now, I actually did escape. I think my very first match, I don't even think I recorded it, my very first match, I got the boat, and I was waiting. I was sitting there, and I was just waiting. Everybody was by the car. They couldn't all fit in the car, but they were standing there anyway, and I had the freaking boat, and I was like, well, I'm ready to go. Even like the radio, right, and being able to talk to people. You could talk to people if you're close, but then if people leave, you're not going to be able to hear them, so you got to find the radio. And, you know, this is something that was very uncharacteristic of me because I really don't talk online. I'll talk to a couple people here and there. I have very strict requirements, and it's just, also I've gotten older, family, like a lot of different stuff has changed, I'd say, in the years. But I will say, when this game first came out, I would play and I would talk. I would talk to people because I think that chaotic nature is elevated by talking. Because I think you can plan it out, or because there is something very special to like finding the radio and like checking in, being like, okay, who's out there? Like, I just got the radio. What's going on? And then you'll get like your progress report, right? People will say, okay, well, I found the car battery. It's over here. I'm going to get this working. And you could be on the other freaking side of the map, right? There's no guarantee you can even get to where they are to escape with them because anything can happen. And again, that's that kind of like, there's a simplicity to it. There's a repetition to it, but you also don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, am I going to be able to get to that boat? Am I going to be able to get to that car? Okay, well, maybe I found keys, but it's on the complete other freaking end of the map, and you need them for the car, so I got to kind of get them to you, and that kind of guarantees a spot for me in the car, guarantees you a spot. Maybe you have to meet me halfway, right? Maybe Jason's going to stop us in between, and we're going to have to kind of deke him out for a while until he leaves. Like, there's just so many small moments of chaos and just legitimate fun, and I mean, like, the kills are really creative in this game, but at its core, like, it's just it's a simple game. Jumping back in, I mean, yeah, I've played 82 hours, so it's like I should be able to remember how to play. Jumping back in, it took me like one match, right? One match, I played as the survivor. I escaped, but like the first 10 minutes, I was like, okay, what the heck am I doing? Like, I forget, some of the tricks with like windows and doors and stuff. You're trying to remember all this stuff. And then even as Jason, it's like, okay, well, like I said, in the beginning, it's like, man, he's tough because like his grab and stuff has got to almost be perfect. And there's a lot of, not only is it chaotic, but there's a lot of like floatiness with this game, like I mentioned with like the shifting stuff. It's odd that like his grab has to be semi-accurate, but like everything else around it is not accurate whatsoever. Even there's a trick with breaking down doors, which is not to do the whole holding the button and just like locking yourself into the animation. It's squaring up and hitting the door. I think they patched it as the months and years went on because you have to nail it just right now in order to like break down a door faster than you would if you just held the button and did the animation. I remember that was a trick back then. But, like, those are the things that you're trying to remember when you jump back in. Another thing I didn't even really mention is the game's still something that people play. Yeah, it takes a little while. I think, and I remember this, like, the more I played it, recently, the more I remembered it back in the day. it doesn't actually take all that long to get into a lobby. What takes long is from the lobby to the game itself. I remember just yesterday when I'm recording this, I got into a match, or I got into a lobby, I should say, right? And I was in that lobby for roughly like 6 minutes because it was like, I think 4 of us, and it had to fill. I think you need at least 6 people maybe in order to start the game, but it just kept filling and filling. And eventually, I think most of the games I played, maybe 1 or 2, I had 6 or 7 people, but a lot of the games was 8, right? Jason and then 7. I mean, people are still playing this game, and when I was playing as Jason, even though I was kind of terrible because I'm just like learning, and that's why the footage you're gonna see as this video has gone on, new stuff mixed with old stuff, because I was legitimately good back then. Now I'm not. But even now, one time I think I killed 6 of 7, and one time I killed 4 of 7. I think the 4 of 7 was the very first match, and it's like, you know what? The reason I say that, it's not to like gloat or like pat myself on the back. The thing is, I feel like it's a wide range of people still playing it, right? Because if these are all like massive experts, I think as Jason, I would have killed nobody. You know what I mean? If I am jumping back in, no joke, for the first time in probably 4 or 5 years, right? Maybe at least 4 years. Okay, I'm jumping in. If it's all just masters at work here, then I don't think I'm catching anybody, but I did. I think I legitimately earned those kills. So I think there's still a lot of people playing this game, and I mean, that's a testament to the game back at launch, because I think this game was mega popular, mega successful, and just, it's tragic. I mean, it's actually kind of a tragedy, because I think the game did everything it needed to do. In fact, I think it surpassed any expectation anybody thought of the game. I hopefully, for Gun Media, I think it did the same thing for them too, where they're probably like, holy dear God, we didn't think, because like the game is a low budget game. Like, this is not a game that costs like $100 million to produce, anything crazy like that. This is a game I think that was thrown together in a couple of years, maybe like three or so years. Is a solid game, but it's held together by simplistic, repetitive mechanics. That's what this game does so well. But you know what? As I keep saying, like a lot of those games, Rocket League is simple in its concept. It's soccer with cars, right? Dead by Daylight is fixing a generator a couple times and leaving through a gate. That's it. That's the game, right? But it's like, okay, but then what can you do to kind of spice in that up? And again, like some games have different things to their advantage. With this game, you're limited because it's just the one franchise. So then it's kind of like, okay, well, you got to have the maps. You got to have the more variations of Jason. And that stuff just didn't come, right? So then you're just left with the gameplay loop, which is still very, very good. And I would actually say borderline elite. But just, at the time, a lot of things went bad, I think, for this game. But you know what? Holding strong all these years later. And it's sad. It really, when they take this game down, right now, again, like this video is maybe. Like, I like to do these videos where I say goodbye. I did a video where I said goodbye to Knockout League. I think Knockout League, the dodgeball game, I think that's actually a very good game. And it's sad. Like, these are games I do genuinely love. And this game will always be incredibly special. Again, like, hitting like 100,000 plus views. I don't think I ever did it before this game. I had multiple videos that did it, and I remember like every day waking up and looking at YouTube and being like, holy dear God, like I can't believe this is even happening. I didn't hold on to that by the way, but it's still, it's cool. I really, that's one part of it was, like the success I guess I had, and at the time I didn't even know like what was happening, but also like I genuinely love this game, and I played this game on my birthday. I think I played the game for like 6 hours on my birthday because it was my birthday's late June. Like I said, really all of June I was just freaking in. This was like the only thing I played June of 2017. I was Crash that year too, maybe Crash as well if that came out also in 2017. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Seriously, I mean, if this is actually goodbye for this game, it holds a lot of memories. It's always going to be incredibly special to me. Despite its faults, it is one of the most special games I think in my life, to be honest. So I really appreciate what it did, and hopefully it can hang on past 2024. But if this is it, this is it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.